A gangster from the Crocodile gang showed up at the police station for his arrested wife. He beat up several policemen and made fun of the head of the department. The rest of the staff stood meekly in place. On the street, he and his henchmen were in big trouble. They were surrounded by at least 100 fighters from the top R gang. They shot 6 of them with Thompson machine guns and cut off the main one's leg with an axe in the rhythm of the dance. The leader of the Axe's brother Sun finished off the enemy. The lady was left alone and begged for mercy. She is released, but only to be shot in the back. The Axes are the scariest of the local gangs. It so happened that only people from the poorest areas can live peacefully, because the bandits don't care about them. Such areas are Svenarni Lane. Its residents can't even wash without standing in line before it. We get acquainted with the heroes: a professional loader, a tailor, a noodle cook, as well as the owner of a pigsty, who constantly uses his position. He flirts with a tailor and a local toothy beauty. One poor guy, a local hairdresser, could not finish the bath procedures and started complaining about it to the mistress of the pigsty. She ran out in curlers and a cigarette in her teeth and instantly billed all her tenants and just knocked out the clean one with a slap. Seeing traces of lipstick on her husband's cheek, the hostess began to beat him severely. A man miraculously survives after falling from a height. In the middle of the day, 2 serious men fall into the pigsty. One of them pretends to be the leader of the Axe's gang. This is confirmed by the corresponding tattoo. His assistant Sim extorts money from the barber, but he refuses. Moreover, the crowd of caring residents has already gathered around. Feeling threatened, Sim offers a one-on-one duel. A peasant woman, summoned from the crowd, beats off all his insides. The little man turned out to be a real giant, and the bespectacled jock, even the kid, has the body of Mr. Olympia. As a result, the blackmailer's grief begins to be driven out of the quarter by the hostess with flip-flops. A firecracker thrown by Sim exploded on the head of the right hand of the real leader of the Axes. The guy is not lost and says that he is also from the gang, and asks to deal with the locals. The hostess immediately runs away. The bandit has already taken up arms, but someone strikes a quick and crushing blow that breaks his back. The brigade is calling for help. A whole army of gangsters falls into the pigsty and begins to press the residents. Brother Sun's assistant has died, and now he is trying to find out the name of the killer, threatening to set fire to the mother and child. The loader confesses to what he has done, and begins to pile on the bandits one by one. Pathetic at first glance, the tailor also turns out to be an incredible master, with the skills of special combat equipment with rings. The cook, armed with a stick, does not let the bandits use machine guns. The trio of kung fu masters made a hell of a mess, breaking up the whole gang. Enraged Brother Sun wants to take revenge on a couple of losers who posed as gang members. With the help of the skeleton key, Sen saved himself from execution and at the last moment managed to save his friend. Brother Sun decides to let the couple go to use them in the future. In the city, comrades talk about who they would kill to join a gang. Sen tells a story from his childhood, how he gave one homeless man all the money set aside for study, in return for a brochure. With her help, he had to master the Buddha's palm technique and become a defender of good, but this technique turned out to be completely useless, when he stood up for a dumb girl from whom hooligans wanted to take away a lollipop. It was after this incident that Sin decided to become a villain. After finishing the conversation, they deceive the ice cream saleswoman by running away and not paying her. In the pigsty, the hostess finds out that such martial artists have forgotten in her neighborhood. The residents are grateful to them for saving them, and the hostess ridicules the gay tailor and his red underpants. Then the whole pigsty turns against the woman. She shuts everyone up with a cry of unprecedented power. Meanwhile, Sin makes an attempt on her life, but only injures himself. Thanks to the efforts of the fat man, 3 knives are already sticking out in blue. Then he pours out a bunch of snakes on his friend. The woman notices her partners and starts a crazy chase after them. The inexplicable happens to the wounded Sin. He is bursting with power, and knife wounds are healing before his eyes. He returns to his friend as good as new. The decision on the 3 fighters, the hostess makes on the basis of predictions. The one falls out with the most terrible outcome: they will have to leave. Brother Sun hires 2 killer musicians, who rank second in the hierarchy of murderers, and orders to deal with his 3 abusers. Meanwhile, the kung fu masters are ready to leave the pigsty, but before that they hold the last training battle. Their names are a dozen kicks, an iron fist and an octagonal pole. They were the best until they are tired. At night, a dozen kicks take place next to the musician. The game on the Guken turns out to be deadly, and the kung fu master loses his head in an instant. The second Claude killer started a fight with an iron fist on the street. His rings were cut by a deadly note. Left unprotected, he receives 3 crushing blows. An octagonal pole saved him from death. He tries to get to the musicians, but their skill is too great. At the same time, the hostess complains about the noise and almost gets an axe in the head. She screams at the top of her voice again and tears the strings off the guten. The killers are going to deal with her, but the owner stops them. Each of their blows acts against them. They beat themselves up, and the man remains unharmed. The tailor dies. The musicians repaired the instrument and strike their most powerful blow, but the hostess easily copes with him with her super scream, and puts the killers to flight. Another moment and the hostess is already sitting in the car between brother Sun and his accountant. She makes it clear without words that he is not welcome here. In the car, the gangster's hair accidentally catches fire. Residents mourn the dead. The octagonal pole is also a death. It turns out that a married couple is the greatest master. They gave up their fame because their son was killed in front of them. A local kid asks to teach him kung fu, but alas, only a person gifted from childhood can become a real master. The cook also dies from injuries. Meanwhile, Sin gets to the bespectacled man in the tram, but immediately pulls away from him. The fat man also kept him company. The bully is upset that he hasn't killed, robbed or raped anyone yet. Therefore, he decides to take revenge on the ice cream saleswoman again. He threatens her with a knife and demands to give her all the money. The girl cries, but is silent, and the fat man discovers the cash register. The girl is mute, and she hides her main treasure separately. This is the same lollipop that Sin once prevented from being taken away by a bully. The guy breaks it and runs away with the selected money. Frustrated, he also chases the fat man away, giving him all the coins. Sin is captured by bandits and brought to the club to his brother Sun. He is accepted into the gang, but first he needs to complete one task. He was taken to some crazy hospital, which is guarded by the military. During the changing of the guard, Sin needs to get to the farthest ward and get one patient out of the hospital. With grief in half, the guy got to the right door and opened it with a skeleton key. Inside, on the push, he sees some bald, bespectacled horseradish. It's kind of like an unsurpassed martial artist, nicknamed the Beast, who went crazy because of constant training. He was released to deal with the owners of the pigsty. Brother Sun is sure that Sheen released the wrong one. The newcomer asks to show him some technique. Immediately, the man begins to beat one of the sixes. The bald man just grins, takes the gun away from him, shoots himself in the head and stops the bullet with 2 fingers. Of course it's a beast. He trashes the club and approaches the husband and wife, who came to finally deal with the axes. They even brought a huge funeral bell with them. These are the famous spouses of Kung Fu, Vulture and Dragon Woman. The beast says that it will be an honor for him to fight with them, and that he wants only one thing, to kill them or die in battles. The spouses take the fight. The battle has begun, and the beast easily holds any of the Naipo's blows than him and Superman's punches. The skill of the beast is too great, and he throws the fighters like toys. The lion's roar technique blows everything around, but for a maniac it's just a light breeze. The vulture technique is also useless. The spouses are seriously beaten, and then the woman picks up a broken bell, and with her cry creates a real hurricane, demolishing everything in its path. The beast was also seriously injured. He pretended to give up, but instead hurt the couple. All 3 masters are tangled in a knot, and brother Sun instructs Sin to finish off the enemies with a steel leg, but instead he smashes the leader's head, and then with all his might, he hits the beast's bald head with it. The beast is furious and hammers Sin on the concrete floor in the most brutal way. Unnoticed, the couple escapes with the body, and the beast twists the neck of brother Sun. The last thing Sin managed to do was draw a lollipop with his blood. The mute girl remembers her abuser and savior. Disguised, the beast is looking for unfinished enemies. The couple wrap the guy in a cocoon of herbs and bandages. They're surprised how he managed to survive. This is impossible for ordinary people. Suddenly, the bandages begin to burst. The gang of axes, already led by the beast, broke into the pigsty to finish off the spouses, but instead an updated and enlightened Sin came out to meet them. A man born the greatest kung fu genius. He smashes bandits with minimal effort. From blows to the stronger ones, they fly off like balls when playing pinball. After scattering the remaining minions, Sin got to the beast. The psycho finally got a worthy opponent. It is not easy for him to withstand the blow of the greatest master. Suddenly standing on all 4s, the beast supplies a powerful toad style. With the strongest blow, he sends Sin into the upper atmosphere. Among the clouds, the guy comprehends the reception of the palm flying from heaven or the palm of the Buddha. He's falling down like a comet. The blow was almost completed, but the beast begged for mercy. He again decided on meanness, but the divine blow terrified him. With one move, Sheen destroyed the building behind. The beast is defeated. After a while, a mute girl sees a pastry shop on which her favorite lollipop is depicted. Inside, a fat man and a Sin are working. The kung fu master and the saleswoman again take each other's hands and run away, and the homeless man finds another chosen brat to breed him for $10.